Welcome on board, chosen one. Funny how you walk in and the whole room forgets how to breathe. Funny how the same people who once talked big suddenly don't know where to put their eyes. They're trying so hard to act normal, but you and I both know the truth. They feel the temperature drop when you show up. They feel that quiet power you don't even try to flex. And they hate it because you weren't supposed to rise like this. You weren't supposed to survive what they threw at you. But look at you now, standing here after everything they swore would break you. When they said you'd never recover. When they said you were too nice, too fragile, too soft to handle the real world. Cute. Now those same critics are watching their words boomerang straight back into their own faces. Oh, the legend needs to bow. The legend. Them. Please, they're barely shadows on the wall compared to who you became. And look who's quiet now. Look who suddenly has nothing to say. Look who's pretending they never doubted you. The silence is loud, isn't it? That silence that hits right after a storm clears. It's the same silence you hear when someone realizes the person they underestimated is the one they should have never touched. If you're feeling this in your chest right now, hit the like button and subscribe so this message keeps reaching the ones who've walked through the same fire. This is how you pay the signal forward. This is how you strengthen the mission. Now, listen closely. Because this moment, right here, is the part where the whole story splits open. For so long, they painted you as the harmless one, the good one, the peaceful one who would never strike back. They fed you this angel narrative because it made them feel safe. As long as you were kind, predictable, and apologizing for your own light, they could control the story. But something snapped. And don't pretend you didn't feel it. You didn't turn dark. You didn't turn evil. You didn't lose yourself. You finally stopped shrinking. You finally stopped playing the role they assigned you. And the second you stepped out of that costume, their entire world shook. You were an angel all along. They just forced you to unleash your other side. That's not a line, that's a fact, written in your history. Think back to all those times you tried to stay gentle. Remember when you swallowed your truth just to keep the peace. When you stayed calm, even though you were hurting. When you forgave people who weren't even sorry. You kept trying to be the light everyone demanded, and they mistook it for weakness. They thought patience meant permission. They thought kindness meant lack of power. Then came the moment that changed everything, that one betrayal that felt like a knife under your ribs, that one humiliation that burned for months, that one goodbye that ripped the floor out from under you. It didn't destroy you. It activated something in you that had been sleeping since childhood. Every chosen one has that moment. And you know what's wild? Years ago, when you were younger, there was this tiny spark inside you. At school, at home, wherever life tested you, there was always a point where you held back, where you swallowed your roar because you didn't want to hurt anyone. That restraint wasn't weakness. It was self-control. It was power you didn't even realize you were protecting. You were a storm pretending to be drizzle, just so the world wouldn't be scared. But now the storm walks on two legs, and everyone feels the shift. Enemies who once mocked you are replaying every scene in their heads, trying to figure out the exact second they lost the upper hand. The ones who betrayed you are checking your socials in secret, praying you haven't moved on without them. The ones who lied about you are terrified because your silence hits harder than their noise ever did. They see your rise and wonder how the story flipped so fast. It flipped the moment you stopped explaining yourself. It flipped the moment you stopped begging for clarity. It flipped the moment you realized your softness was never the problem. Their fear of it was. Let me give you a story from the past that mirrors your rise. There was once a kid who never fought back. Bullies laughed at him, pushed him, tested him. He'd clean their mess, apologize for things he didn't do, and keep his head down. Everyone thought he was weak. But one day, a bully shoved him too hard. The kid didn't punch him. He didn't scream. He just stood up, looked him in the eyes and said, "Try that again." The bully never touched him again. Not because he was scared of a punch, but because he finally recognized the kid wasn't breakable. That's you now. The world finally realized you're not breakable, and the ones who pushed you are the reason you unlocked the side of yourself they never wanted to meet. Not evil, not cruel, not dark, just untouchable, just done playing small, just done letting people rewrite your story. The universe didn't send you here to stay quiet forever. It sent you here to rise, even if your rise scares the ones who tried to bury you. Welcome to your other side, chosen one. The side they created, the side they fear, the side you finally embraced. Before we move forward, take a breath and feel what's happening inside you right now. That shift, that crackle under your skin, that's the other side waking up, the one they tried to bury under guilt, doubt, and fake humility. If you're still here, it means you're done apologizing for the power they forced out of you. And since you already stepped into this room of truth, you might as well walk all the way through it. Drop a comment with 777 to mark the moment you stopped shrinking for people who were never on your level. Consider it your silent signature, your confirmation that the angel they misjudged is no longer playing small. And chosen one, listen closely. If you really are who I think you are, you'll feel that pull to stay until the very last word. Your story has already cracked open. Your transformation has already begun. So let's dive into this step by step, with the calm confidence of someone who finally understands their own power. Because from this point on, things don't just change, they flip. Let's begin. Number 1. When they mistook your halo for a handle and got dragged into their own consequences. Funny how they kept poking the innocent one until the day that innocence stopped running and turned around. They really believed you were endlessly soft, didn't they? They thought you were some quiet little angel who would stand there glowing politely while they threw their shadows at you. They convinced themselves that your patience made you powerless, that your silence meant surrender, that your heart was theirs to bruise whenever boredom kicked in. And now look at them, chosen one. Look how fast their confidence collapsed the moment you stopped bending. Look how their entire personality evaporated the second you showed them what your other side looks like. They pushed an angel too far, and that was their first mistake. They assumed angels don't evolve. They assumed angels don't learn. They assumed angels don't bleed, and therefore don't break, don't rebuild, don't reshape into something sharper. They forgot the simplest truth. The universe doesn't create gentle souls without giving them a darker counterpart to protect that gentleness. And yours. Yours wakes up like a blade being pulled slowly from a sheath, humming with clarity. Let me tell you something they will never admit out loud. They always knew you had this power. They just hoped you'd never use it. They hoped you'd stay trapped in the version of yourself that served them. The version that forgave even when forgiveness wasn't earned. The version that showed mercy when mercy was weaponized against you. They fed off your empathy like parasites dressed as admirers. But here's the plot twist. You gave them kindness and they confused it for weakness. You gave them loyalty and they mistook it for obligation. You gave them chances and they assumed those chances would never run out. People like that always push until they hit the limit they swear you don't have. Then they meet the limit, and suddenly you're different, cold, unrecognizable. Let me ask you, chosen one, isn't it funny how you're only too much once you stop letting people use you? Isn't it interesting how your attitude changed the moment you stopped shrinking for their comfort? Isn't it wild how your silence suddenly becomes scary when it's no longer an apology? They know exactly what they did. That's why they're acting confused now. Think back to every moment that led you here, the small betrayals they brushed off as jokes, the subtle disrespect they swore you were imagining, the gaslighting disguised as honesty, the way they would drain you, then mock you for being tired. They believed your halo was a handle they could yank anytime they wanted control. They thought you were built to hold their mess, not your boundaries. But here comes the part that shakes them to the bone. The angel they pushed didn't disappear, it evolved. And evolution is something your enemies never prepare for. They prepare for your collapse. They prepare for your breakdown. They prepare for your silence, your surrender, your return to their rules. What they don't prepare for is your awakening. They don't prepare for the day you stop explaining yourself. They don't prepare for the day their words no longer land. They don't prepare for the day your energy changes tone and theirs changes temperature. Once that happens, they start scrambling. Your absence hits harder than your presence ever did. Your boundaries feel like walls they can't climb. Your new strength feels like evidence of every wrong they hoped you'd forget. And now they're scared, not because you became dangerous, but because they finally realize they were. You ever notice how your enemies always act shocked when the universe balances the scales? They look at you like you grew horns overnight, when in reality you simply stopped letting them pull your wings off. They created the very version of you they now fear. They forged your other side with their lies, their pettiness, their disrespect. They trained the part of you that no longer trembles, no longer doubts, no longer apologizes for taking up space. Here's the part they can't stand. You didn't even retaliate. You didn't seek revenge. You didn't plot anything. You just healed. And your healing exposed their true nature louder than any argument could. That's what terrifies them. Not your anger, not your darkness, not your silence. What terrifies them is how effortlessly you detached, how cleanly you walked away, how naturally your spirit returned to its worth once you stopped begging for theirs. They wanted you weak because they knew your strength could rewrite the entire story. They wanted you fearful because they knew your confidence could flip the roles. They wanted you humble because they knew your real power would make them irrelevant. Now the tables aren't just turned, they're welded in place. Here's something that will sting them if they ever hear it. An angel who chooses peace is beautiful. An angel who chooses war is unforgettable. Not war in the petty sense, not revenge or destruction. War as in choosing yourself, choosing truth, choosing boundaries they can't manipulate, choosing growth they can't follow, choosing a life where they no longer have access to the parts of you they used to exploit. Your rise wasn't an accident, it was a correction. Your transformation wasn't sudden, it was overdue. Your other side wasn't born from darkness, it was born from clarity. Let me give you a story they'll pretend isn't about them. There was once someone who kept pushing a gentle soul, day after day, convinced they'd never fight back. They mocked their kindness, took advantage of their patience, treated their heart like it was free to break. But one day, the gentle soul woke up and didn't feel like losing anymore. Didn't feel like begging anymore. Didn't feel like explaining to people who came only to misunderstand. So the gentle soul didn't scream, didn't lash out, didn't create chaos. They simply walked away, and became the version of themselves they always hid. Weeks passed, then months. And suddenly, the bully realized something terrifying. They didn't just lose access to the angel, they lost access to the grace that protected them from their own consequences. That's what's happening now. Your evolution has removed their safety net. Your strength has revealed their weakness. Your clarity has exposed their chaos. You're not the villain. You're the mirror they can't stand to look into. And, chosen one, here's the final truth that seals the entire chapter. They didn't awaken your darkness. They awakened your balance. They awakened the part of you that knows when enough is enough. They awakened the version of you who doesn't fight for a seat at tables you outgrew. They awakened the angel who learned to guard their own heart, not hand it over to people who break things for fun. This isn't revenge. This is evolution. This is reclamation. This is you stepping into the identity that was always yours. They pushed an angel too far, and in doing so, they accidentally introduced the world to something far stronger, the angel who remembers they can't be touched. Now watch how fast the story changes. Watch how loud their silence becomes. Watch how your other side becomes the very thing that saves you. This is your rise. This is your confirmation. This is your turning point. And the best part? You didn't need to destroy them. You just needed to stop letting them destroy you. Number 2. When they feared angels but still tried to play with one. Wild how they wanted your light but never learned what your fire feels like up close. People love angels until the angel stops smiling. They called you too kind right up until the moment your strength made them choke. Nothing scares a liar more than the person they couldn't break becoming impossible to touch. They really had the nerve to think angels were harmless, didn't they? As if you were some soft little cloud drifting around, blessing people who didn't deserve your time in the first place. They wanted to believe you were passive, predictable, forever forgiving. Because that image made them feel safe. It made them believe they could get away with anything. They built this fantasy in their heads where angels are decoration, not disruption. Comfort, not consequence. But real angels? The ones the universe actually sends into battlefields disguised as human beings. Those angels don't float. They walk. They bleed. They withstand storms that would crush entire cities. They guard gates. They deliver truth like a blade. They stand on the border between what was and what will never be tolerated again. Imagine this. An entire crowd sees a glowing figure and assumes it's harmless because it's beautiful. But beauty has always been misunderstood. Light isn't soft. Light exposes. Light forces eyes open. Light reveals everything people prayed would stay hidden. You were that light all along. You just dimmed yourself so others wouldn't feel naked in front of your truth. Let me ask you something real. Chosen one, did they ever stop for even 1 second to wonder why the universe made you so gentle and so sharp at the same time? Why you could forgive endlessly but remember everything? Why you could love deeply but cut ties clean when pushed too far? Of course not. They only saw what benefited them. Your softness, your empathy, your willingness to understand even the people who didn't deserve it. They thought your patience was proof you had no claws. They thought your silence meant you were too fragile to roar. But here's the part they never saw coming. Angels don't break. They transform. Imagine a sword wrapped in silk. That was you. Smooth on the outside, razor underneath. They played with the silk, thinking it made them untouchable. Then one day, the silk fell away, and suddenly they realized they had been gripping the blade the entire time. Who do they blame now? The blade or their own arrogance? Real angels are not these soft creatures drifting around waiting to be stepped on. Real angels are terrifying in the most beautiful way. They are the ones who step into chaos without flinching, who carry the weight of entire worlds on their shoulders and still walk forward, who hold back their power not because they don't have any, but because they don't want to shatter the people they love. And you lived like that for so long. Carefully, gently, deliberately. You offered mercy after mercy, even when it cost you pieces of yourself. But mercy has limits. Mercy has expiration dates. Mercy becomes foolishness when placed in the hands of someone who mistakes it for weakness. And they pushed you right past that line. They pushed you past your last ounce of patience, past your final try, past the version of you that still believed their lies, past the point where swallowing your truth felt noble instead of painful. They pushed you straight into the part of yourself they never believed existed. Imagine sitting in a room with people who claim to love you while they quietly hope you never realize your worth. Imagine offering peace and watching them offer chaos in return. Imagine giving understanding to someone who thrives on being misunderstood. You lived in that contradiction for way too long, and now they want to pretend they're confused by your evolution. That's the funniest part. They're calling you changed. They're saying you're cold. They're whispering that you're not yourself anymore. But let's be honest, isn't it rich how they only say that when you stop letting them take advantage of you? They don't want the real you. They want the version of you that made their life easier. They want the angel who dimmed their own glow for their comfort. They want the angel who swallowed pain so they didn't have to face their own behavior. Now that you've reclaimed your wings, they're horrified by the wingspan. Now that you've reclaimed your power, they're overwhelmed by the impact. Now that your halo stopped being a decoration and became a shield, they're crying about the reflection. Here's a truth most people will never admit. People love angels until the angels stop sacrificing themselves. You didn't become someone else. You became someone whole, and that wholeness terrifies them. Imagine a volcano. For years it appears calm, harmless even. Tourists climb it, take pictures, laugh at the view. They never think about what's underneath. Then, one day, it erupts. Not because it hates the people, not because it changed, but because pressure builds, and eventually the truth has nowhere left to hide. You were that volcano. They were the tourists. And now they want to sue the mountain for doing exactly what mountains do. Let me answer the question forming in your mind right now. Why do they act like I'm the villain when they're the ones who hurt me? Because they need a villain to avoid looking in the mirror, because your strength exposes their cowardice, because your clarity exposes their confusion, because your evolution exposes their stagnation. You didn't become dark, you became undeniable. There's a difference. People think angels are supposed to keep giving second chances until there's nothing left of them. But real angels don't exist to be drained. Real angels don't serve the emotional appetites of people who only visit when they're hungry. Real angels stand guard, enforce consequences, and protect what's sacred. And whether you like it or not, chosen one, you have always been sacred. They hated you for holding standards they could never meet. They hated you for loving with a depth they could never return. They hated you for seeing through them, even when you stayed kind. They hated you because you were the one person they couldn't fully manipulate. And what do people do when they can't control something powerful? They try to convince it that it's broken. They tried that with you. They tried to rewrite your identity, but all they really did was reveal theirs. Here's something painful but freeing. Your transformation didn't betray them, it exposed them. When you finally stepped into your full truth, their lies lost oxygen. When you finally claimed your power, their illusions collapsed. When you finally embraced your other side, they met the consequence of their own behavior. Imagine a mirror cracking down the middle. That crack isn't destruction, it's separation, it's clarity. It's the universe saying, this part stays with you, this part stays behind. That's what happened the moment you stepped into your evolution. You didn't push them away, you simply rose higher than their reach. And now they're scrambling for explanations because the angel they misread now stands in full form. No disguise, no softness forced by guilt, no silence disguised as peacekeeping, just you in your complete, balanced truth. Here's what they'll never admit. They always sensed this part of you. That's why they tried so hard to break you before you found it. They feared your power long before you felt it. What you're experiencing now isn't a change. It's a return. A return to the version of yourself that existed before the world asked you to shrink. A return to the strength you hid because you didn't want to intimidate anyone. A return to the clarity that was always your birthright. They called you different because they benefited from your confusion. Now that you're clear, they're exposed. So let this settle into your bones. You didn't transform into someone new. You finally became who you were meant to be. The truth about angels is simple. They don't come to destroy. They come to remind the world what cannot be destroyed. And chosen one, that truth is you. Number 3. When they built your awakening with their own bare hands. Nothing terrifies a coward more than watching the person they tried to tame wake up unfazed and unstoppable. Let's not sugarcoat it. Before they got into your head, you were a whole storm with wings. You were loud in spirit, bright in presence, and powerful in ways they couldn't stand because it exposed everything dull about them. They didn't want to grow. They wanted you small. They wanted you apologizing for qualities they wished they had. They wanted an angel they could domesticate, not a force of nature they'd have to rise to meet. Imagine this. A flame so bright it lights the whole room, and someone walks up and tells it to tone it down because their insecurity is overheating. That's what they did to you, and because you cared, because you were wired with empathy from the start, you listened. You clipped your wings, you lowered your glow, you shrank your roar to protect people who would never protect you. But here's the punchline they never expected. You didn't lose yourself. You were conserving energy. You went quiet, not broken. You went distant, not defeated. You went inward, not downward. And now they're panicking because the version they controlled is gone forever. Let me answer the question in your mind. Why do they want me back now? Because the gentle version served their ego. This awakened version exposes their mediocrity. They pushed you into silence, and that silence became your cocoon. They forced you into shadow, and that shadow sharpened your instincts. They treated your softness like a weakness, and that mistake carved out the monster they now whisper about. What's left of you isn't damaged. What's left is upgraded. What's left is magnificent and untouchable. Number 4. When they thought you were falling, but you were mutating into their worst lesson. Cowards always scream, "You've changed," when the monster they created finally stops apologizing for breathing. They love the idea of your downfall, don't they? They cling to it like a bedtime story that helps them sleep at night. Because if they can pretend you fell, then they never have to face the truth. They triggered your evolution. They didn't witness your collapse. They witnessed your mutation. They forced your hand, pushed your limits, drained your kindness, and then acted surprised when the light they exploited hardened into armor. Imagine this, a feather that turns to steel because too many dirty hands touched it. That's what your wings did. They didn't disappear. They upgraded. Every betrayal welded another plate. Every lie hammered another shield. Every moment they twisted your emotions, lit a fuse inside you that they now regret ever sparking. And here's the punch that hits them deep. You let the soft parts of your mercy die on purpose. Not because you broke, because you were done being the life raft for people who were happy to watch you drown. Let me answer the question creeping through your mind. Was I wrong for becoming this version of myself? No, you were wrong for staying small for as long as you did. They treated you like disposable light, something to return to only when their own world went dark. But with every boundary they ignored, every emotion they twisted, every time they made you doubt reality, they sculpted a version of you who could walk through fire without burning, through shadows without losing direction, through chaos without losing identity. This isn't a fall. This is ascension through the ashes they provided. They created the angel who knows both sides. And that version of you, that's the one they can never play with again. Number 5. When their poison stopped working and they realized you can't be infected twice. Nothing scares a manipulator more than the day their favorite tricks stop having any effect. It's like watching a magician choke when the rabbit refuses to die. They always misunderstood what you were made of. They thought angels were just vessels of light, floating around with open arms and soft hearts. They never realized angels carry darkness in their archives like a secret map. Not because they belong to the dark, but because they've battled it, survived it, reshaped it into wisdom. Real angels aren't naive. They're forged, tempered, hardened through contact with every shadow that tried to swallow them. Imagine this: someone keeps feeding poison to a creature they think is fragile, and suddenly the creature stops reacting. Suddenly the poison stops working. Suddenly the predator realizes the victim has grown fangs. You tried to stay pure, didn't you? You tried to stay soft. You tried to keep your intentions clean, your spirit clear, your heart untangled from the mess they kept dragging you into. But they were relentless. They kept injecting toxicity into every connection you offered, dripping venom into your trust, trying to twist your goodness into submission. They wanted to contaminate you just enough to keep you controlled. And when a system is attacked, it doesn't collapse, it adapts. Your evolution was biological, emotional, spiritual, a full-body upgrade. Their poison became your vaccine. Their lies became your antibodies. Their manipulation built your resistance. Let me answer the thought swirling in your mind. Why do I feel nothing now? Because that's what immunity feels like. It looks like indifference. It sounds like silence. It feels like absence. They interpret it as coldness, but it's not cold. It's clarity. You're immune to their guilt trips now, immune to their crocodile tears, immune to their recycled apologies, immune to their desperate last-minute promises. Imagine someone trying to punch a brick wall. They keep hurting themselves and calling the wall heartless. That's them now. Everything they used to weaponize against you rebounds and hits them instead. Their words have no hooks. Their games have no entry point. Their chaos has no influence. This immunity terrifies them because it exposes the truth they've been hiding. You were never weak. You were never breakable. You were simply untrained in the dark arts they depended on. Now you're fluent. Now you see through everything. Now you can walk through their storms without getting wet. They didn't break your spirit. They activated your defenses, and in doing so, they built a version of you that can't be touched, tricked, manipulated, or emotionally hijacked ever again. They created immunity. But you turned it into evolution, and that evolution turned you into someone they'll never be able to handle. Number 6. When your silence became the grave they dug for themselves. Nothing is louder than the moment you stop caring. It's the sound of their power collapsing. Your evolution didn't strike like lightning. It crept in like a slow eclipse, swallowing your old self inch by inch while everyone around you stayed blissfully unaware. Every day you gave less of your soul to people who didn't earn a single breath of it. Every smile felt thinner. Every response felt hollow. Every act of care felt like lifting a weight you no longer believed in. And then one morning, the feeling just wasn't there. It didn't fade, it vanished. Imagine looking into a mirror and seeing a version of yourself that no longer flinches, no longer bends, no longer bleeds for people who treated your heart like a doormat. That's the moment you met nothingness. And nothingness is terrifying because it means you've ascended past the entire game. They expected anger. Anger is predictable. Anger is emotional. Anger keeps you tied to them. But nothing. Nothing means freedom. Nothing means the cord snapped. Nothing means you walked out of the burning house without even glancing back. Let me answer the question circling in your mind. Is this bad? No, it's evolution's final form. They can't reach you anymore. They can't trigger you. They can't drain you. Your nothingness is not emptiness, it's immunity, and they'll feel the loss forever. Number 7. When your quiet turned into the judgment they can't escape. Silence is the executioner they never see. It kills their ego without you lifting a finger. Your silence isn't emptiness, it's strategy. It's the throne you sit on now, watching clowns do cartwheels for attention you no longer hand out. They keep poking, keep performing, keep trying to provoke the old version of you. The one who explained everything, reacted to everything, cared about everything. But that version died, and the burial was silent. Imagine standing behind glass, watching them throw tantrums on the other side. You see their exaggerated emotions, their fake tears, their desperate attempts to seem relevant, and you barely blink. Why? Because once you've tasted peace, chaos looks cheap. Once you've built inner power, external noise becomes background static. Let me answer the question whispering in your mind. Why does my silence bother them so much? Because silence exposes them. Silence forces them to face themselves. Silence proves they never had control in the first place. They text you paragraphs hoping for crumbs. They stir drama hoping for a spark. They spread rumors hoping to wound you. But you don't react, you don't flinch, you don't descend. Your silence isn't weakness, it's a verdict, and they know exactly what it means. They don't matter anymore. Number 8. When your stillness became the trap they walked into. Still water looks harmless until you realize it's deep enough to drown every lie they ever told. Your silence was never surrender. It was the cleanest execution of strategy you've ever pulled off. Anyone can yell, anyone can react, anyone can waste breath on people who treat emotions like toys. But choosing stillness, choosing restraint, choosing to shut the gates and let them scream outside, that's mastery. That's evolution. That's what happens when the chosen one gets tired of feeding wolves who only bite the hand that nourished them. Imagine this, a battlefield where one warrior drops their weapon and simply stands there. No fear, no panic, just presence. The enemy begins shaking, not because of violence, but because every move they make reveals their weakness. That's what your stillness does. It exposes them. Let me answer the question floating in your mind. Do they notice my silence? They notice it more than your words ever mattered. It keeps them awake. It keeps them guessing. It keeps them terrified of what happens next. They don't have access to your mind anymore. No access to your truth. No access to your evolution. Your transformation is happening in locked rooms, behind closed doors, in places their energy can't enter. Stillness isn't absence. Stillness is preparation. Stillness is power evolving without witnesses, and they'll never see the new you coming. Number 9. When you evolved into the version they can't touch, even in their dreams. They feared your darkness until they realized it was the only part of you they could never control. Here's the truth they never expected to face. Once your other side wakes up, it doesn't go back to sleep. This isn't a phase. This isn't a costume. This is your final form, stepping into the room without apology. And now that it's active, it stands guard like a sentinel, watching everything, analyzing everyone, ensuring no one ever gets close enough to cut you the same way twice. Imagine unlocking a new sense, a sixth awareness that sees patterns before they happen. That's not paranoia. That's intelligence sharpened by survival. You learn to read intentions like weather forecasts. You learn to detect manipulation before the first word is spoken. You learn to recognize guilt wrapped in nostalgia, concern wrapped in control, I miss you wrapped in strategy. Let me answer what you're thinking. Does this make me cold? No, it makes you complete. You didn't become less angelic. You became more. Real angels aren't floating ornaments. They're warriors with vision in both directions, light and shadow. By embracing your darker instincts, you finally integrated what was always inside you. And now, they're spiraling. They're sending mutual friends to fish for information. They're posting bait online, hoping you'll bite. They're rewriting history to paint themselves as victims. But you're untouchable. You see through every tactic, every script, every recycled performance. Some of them even try poking your old buttons, desperate to trigger the version of you that cried, apologized, explained, overextended. But those buttons, they don't exist anymore. You rewired your entire system. Your new frequency is silent, elevated, unreachable. That's what terrifies them. You didn't just move on, you moved beyond. Number 10. When your energy upgraded and their access card stopped working. Once you rise to a higher frequency, the people who fed on your chaos suffocate in your peace. You didn't just outgrow them, you out-evolved them at a molecular level. You're operating on a wavelength where their toxicity can't breathe, where their games fall flat, where their manipulation hits a firewall they can't crack. You changed your internal coding. You became incompatible with dysfunction. That's why their old tricks don't land. They're trying to run on software you deleted. Imagine having a built-in radar that picks up lies before they even form. That's your new frequency, a truth detector disguised as intuition. You sense intentions before the first word drops. You read silence better than most people read full sentences. Your boundaries now operate automatically, like a security system that locks doors before danger even reaches the porch. This new vibration doesn't pull in chaos. It attracts people who honor your peace. People who match your growth instead of draining it. People who don't flinch at your standards, but rise to them. And when the old crowd sees you building new connections, effortlessly, naturally, they feel the sting of being replaced by your evolution, not your revenge. What truly destroys them is how stable you've become. No crashes, no breakdowns, no regression. You're not acting different. You are different. Permanently. You feared darkness would corrupt you, but it completed you. You feared boundaries would isolate you, but they protected you. You feared choosing yourself was selfish, but it made you sovereign. You're not vibrating higher just for peace. You're vibrating higher because you finally remembered who you are. Number 11. When your wholeness became the nightmare they can't wake up from. Nothing frightens a user more than realizing their favorite broken person finally put themselves back together with no cracks left to grab. They never wanted you healed. They needed you insecure, questioning yourself, bending for approval that never should have mattered. Your brokenness gave them purpose. Your doubts fed their ego. Your softness made them feel powerful. But now, your completion exposes their emptiness like a spotlight on a hollow stage. Imagine this, a puzzle they once controlled piece by piece, suddenly snapping into place without their help. That's you now, whole, integrated, unreachable, and it terrifies them because your wholeness shows how small they always were. Let me answer the thought creeping in your mind. Am I doing this to get back at them? No, your evolution isn't revenge, it's recovery. Your boundaries aren't weapons, they're restoration. Your distance isn't punishment, they're simply no longer relevant in your story. You're untouchable now, not because you're violent or vengeful, but because you're complete. You can't manipulate someone who's integrated their shadow. You can't guilt someone who faced their own shame and won. You can't break someone who rebuilt themselves using the ashes as bricks. Imagine trying to drown someone who learned to breathe underwater. That's how futile their tactics are now. You became your own validation, your own sanctuary, your own home. And that self-sufficiency, it terrifies people who depended on your dependence. This isn't a phase. This isn't mood-driven. This is irreversible evolution, a molecular shift they can't undo, touch, or influence. The old version of you, hurting, hopeful, hesitant, no longer exists. You've seen too much, felt too much, survived too much to ever shrink back into someone convenient. Now, your presence has gravity. People sense your boundaries before you speak. They sense your strength in your silence. You've become your own security system, your own sacred ground. And when you look in the mirror, the shock isn't loss, it's recognition. You didn't lose yourself. You finally found the version of you they hoped would never rise. Number 12. When the story came full circle and you became their final consequence. Poetic how every person who tried to break you ended up building the version of you they can never touch again. Now everything snaps into place, doesn't it? The betrayals weren't accidents, they were chisels. The losses weren't punishments, they were clearing the ground. Every ending was a disguised doorway. Every heartbreak was scaffolding. While you were busy thinking you were collapsing, the universe was constructing something lethal, beautiful, untouchable. And now that the masterpiece is finished, they're forced to face what they created with their own hands. A version of you forever beyond their reach. Imagine a circle drawn in fire. You walked it all, light, shadow, hope, destruction, and somehow came out whole. You stand here as everything they underestimated, angel and demon, healer and warrior, softness and steel, woven into one unstoppable force. They demanded to see your other side. Now they're living with it. Let me answer what flickers in your mind. Do I need closure? No. Closure is a door they no longer own. Apologies don't interest you. Explanations don't move you. Validation no longer fuels you. You stopped proving, stopped chasing, stopped shrinking. You don't defend your name anymore because your presence does it for you. And that silence you carry, it isn't hollow, it's loaded. Loaded with peace, power, clarity, self-respect, and every piece of yourself you reclaimed from their chaos. When they see you now, they see distance they can't cross, strength they can't shake, evolution they can't undo. You didn't win against them. Winning still puts you on the same playing field. You transcended them. You evolved into a realm they'll never access. Your story didn't just continue, it outgrew their entire reality. That's full circle. And now we arrive at the edge of everything, where the story settles, where the transformation roots itself, where you step fully into the version of you they swore would never exist. You're complete now, chosen one, untouchable, awake, evolved beyond their reach forever. If this hit your soul the way truth always does, like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop 77 in the comments, and share this message so other chosen ones can rise with you.